The Nintendo Switch has been exploding with accessory options, and one of the biggest is Pro Controllers. Now, of course, Nintendo has their own wireless Pro Controller for $70, but there are a lot of cheaper third-party options that have been popping up that are wired. One I've talked about before is the Hori Pro Controller, but it now has a competitor in the form of a Pro Controller from PowerA. Now, how does this one stack up against the Hori and even against Nintendo's own wireless Pro Controller? Let's find out. Now, before we go into the in-depths of how this controller handles, how the buttons feel and everything, let's talk about the obvious downsides of it being an off-brand, cheaper controller option. There's a lot of functions present in the Nintendo Pro Controller that is not in this one. You're not getting a rumble feature, which is a big thing that's missing. You don't have an NFC reader, which isn't that huge of a deal because you can just use Joy-Con. And you don't have any motion controls, which for most games isn't really a problem, but if you like using those for a few handfuls like Zelda right here, that's going to be a big no for you as well. And then there is, of course, the fact that it is a wired controller. However, that is actually kind of one of the upsides for this controller, at least compared to the Hori. While they are both wired controllers, an important difference between the two is the fact that the Hori wired is a hardwired controller. You cannot remove that cable, which can be really annoying. The PowerA one, on the other hand, has a removable micro USB cable, so it's easy to replace. If anything happens to the cable damage-wise, you can just switch it out, and it makes it a lot easier to store and carry around the controller rather than just having this big bulky thing with an unremovable mass of wires. And then the other big upside of this controller, especially when you hold it up side by side with the Pro Controller, is that it's very obviously actually very close in design. The Hori went for something that was very differently shaped and for the most part to its detriment, whereas this controller is very clearly the same exact setup with button placement and everything. Some of the buttons are a little differently shaped. There's a few grooves here and there that are a bit different, but for the most part, this is pretty much the same comfort level as this. Now, as for how the actual controller handles once you're using it, well, that's where things get a little more murky. While the button placement is pretty much the same as the actual Nintendo Pro Controller, when it comes to actual button quality, things are definitely a drop-off, even compared to the Hori one as well. The main ABXYs are very stiff feeling and not in a way that's actually like beneficial. The shoulder buttons are for the most part very similar to the Switch controller, which is nice. The biggest areas though where I have hangups with this thing are the sticks and D-pad. The D-pad on this thing is just flat out awful. It kind of feels like when you press down in any one direction, you're just pressing the whole thing down. There's not really a good sense of differentiating between up, down, left, and right. And the sticks are very loose feeling. It doesn't feel very comfortable or nice to use them. It's entirely usable, but compared to using the Pro Controller or even Joy-Cons or even just the Hori controller, which is another cheap alternative, it just doesn't feel like that great of a controller to use. Now, of course, this is a $30 wired controller, so you're not looking for the ultimate experience, but as I said, the Hori for the same price just feels a little more comfortable as far as the buttons go. One other big upside this one does have, though, is it comes in flashy designs. Now, this one right here is a Mario-themed one that's red. You can see all this little flower print with the fire flowers, leaves, star right here. They also have another one that's more Zelda-based, and that actually looks really cool with kind of a black design, gold trim here and there. Great-looking controllers, just not the greatest buttons in the world. You know, ultimately, if I'm gonna say which Pro Controller you should grab, aside from obviously just the Nintendo one, you're looking to save some money, I'm still leaning towards the Hori. This does have some upsides in terms of the grip being more comfortable. I like the removable cable, but ultimately, as far as how actual button quality is going to go and your experience while playing games, that's just gonna be the better option right now.